Y'all hear me? Hello? I need David.
Try now.
Hello? Can you hear me? Hello? Hello? Testing. Testing. Testing.
I'm loud. I don't know. I turned the volume up.
Testing. Testing.
Try now.
Testing.
Getting better?
Testing. Testing.
I just far up with the
Hello?
volume.
Hello? I think we should have brought yours in.
I didn't bring one. I
Hello? Hello? Can y'all hear me yet? Is yours working?
I didn't bring my speaker. Let's see if my microphone. I don't know.
I hope y'all can hear me. Can everybody hear? Okay, I'm going to call the meeting to order.
We're going to call the meeting to order.
This is free intro. She's my event coordinator. I think it might be better if I just call her.
Yeah.
So, number one, right off the bat, COS does not support a party or a candidate. We do support self-governing, which is why you're all here today. We want to get as many candidates in front of the voters as we possibly can so that you can look at each one of them and assess them, look at how sincere you think they are, see what they have to say, ask them questions, and do all that before you go into the voting booth. As always, we encourage you to vote your values. Please turn off your cell phones. And if you need to take or make a call, please do it outside. Here's a little thing what I think. Because we conservatives, our government has grown outside the boundaries of Article 1, Section 8 of the Constitution, which lists the 18 enumerated powers that were entrusted to Congress. They had a box. They've taken the box off. They've crept outside of the box. What Convention of States wants to do is we want to put them back into the box. We have a petition that you can sign at the back, and what our three things are that we want to do with our resolution to go to Congress is we want to get term limits, we want to get fiscal responsibility, and we want to get federal government overreach and jurisdiction pulled back from the government. It's going to take 34 states to call a convention. It's going to take 38 states to ratify it. It's a high bar. It's the highest bar in the Constitution. We're working on it. We have 17 states, and we've got about 5 more that have passed through one house, and they're moving on to the other. The biggest person that has helped us the most is So basically, we have abdicated the power of we the people to those who wish to make laws that are not in our best interest, using the money that we the people give them in the form of taxes. And now we the people need to do our duty to our country and get involved and select the best person for the job according to your own personal set of values. Who actually represents you best? I'm going to give you a little quote from President James Garfield. Now more than ever, the people are responsible for the character of their Congress. If that body be ignorant, reckless, and corrupt, it is because the people tolerate ignorance, recklessness, and corruption. If it be intelligent, brave, and pure, it is because the people demand these high qualities to represent them in the national legislature. If the next centennial does not find us a great nation, it is because those who represent the enterprise, the culture, and the morality of the nation do not aid in controlling the political forces. At this time, is Keith here? No? Okay. We have someone else that's a former pastor, and he has agreed to step up and do our prayer. He just walked in because he saw.
We're talking Texas, we're talking land values, so that's one of the reasons I come here, what Colonel West has to say. Thanks, sir. Let's pray. Father God, we come before you, mighty King of Kings, Lord of Lords, into our midst. God, you are our strength, you are our power, you are our hope. God, that's what we rely on. Politics is a necessary evil, something you established, Father, through Moses. Actually, accountability, man, we have lost. We have lost that ability to be accountable. God, we come to you, inviting you into your wisdom and your direction. God, I ask you to be with Carl as he speaks. I pray that you speak through him, that we can see truth. God, this we ask for truth. Or you say, where there is no vision, the people perish. Plus, you say in Chronicles, if my people, which are called by my name, shall humble themselves, we ask humility. And then we pray. And then we seek your face. And then we turn from our wicked ways. And then you will hear us. People and those who came, and or we do. We humble our hearts. We invite you. We simply ask for the sweet name of Jesus.
Who'd like to lead the pledge? I've just got these two right here. Okay, I will. Everybody please stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Somebody else would say, absolutely.
Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Okay, at this time we're going to have Colonel West come up and speak to us.
Hey, I'm had a little package of food in here because there was a group that wanted to meet with me, and they were talking about how convention of states is not good, and it's all unconstitutional, and it's going to cause a second constitutional convention, and the left and the globalists are going to change the Constitution. You know, the bottom line is this. It comes down to you electing the right people.
be in the right position to honor our Constitution. And that's why we find ourselves in the problem that we're in. It's the apathy and the complacency that we have had for decades now that have allowed the left, the progressive socialist left, the statists, the Marxists, the communists, up for the Constitution. So it really comes back to each and every one of you. You are in an incredible election cycle that only occurs every 10 years. And why is it an important election cycle? Because every single member of the Texas State House and the Texas State Senate has to go for re-election because it's a redistricting cycle. But I'm telling you right now that you all know someone that, first of all, now you're registered to vote. And voter registration closed on 31 January. And the other thing is that you all know people, and a lot of them sadly were probably in church today, they don't even realize that there's an election coming up. You're going to have some friends of yours, they're going to call you next weekend, and they're going to say, hey, what's all these signs? What are these commercials about? I mean, what's going on? And you're going to have to inform them that there's an election next Tuesday, March 1st. And then when we ask you, who do we vote for? Who's the right person? And that's why it's so important when you come together in groups like this, you've got to, once again, do what it says in the Bible, to study to show thyself approved. Because it also says in the Bible that my people suffer for lack of. If you talk to people about what is a constitutional conservative, what really is Marxism? What about property taxes? These things, I don't know. They can tell you what Kim Kardashian did 48 hours ago. Or they can, they sat down and they can tell you what happened in the Super Bowl last week. But the real Super Bowl that's coming up in the state of Texas and all across the United States of America comes in November 2022. So what's the important part about this primary? This is where you get to pick your little fantasy football team. To go out in the field and to do your business, and the Super Bowl, that will happen in November 2022. And if you continue to believe folks when they come down and they say blah, 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 and you don't do your due diligence, you sit down now, Susan, I need you to stand. If you don't do your due diligence, if you don't go out and look at all of these candidates, find out what you're about, then one of our founding fathers once said that sometimes you get the government that you want, other times you get the government you deserve. And think about when you talk about the government that you deserve. In the state of Texas, I just met a young lady back here, Kathleen. 1 year, she's been here from Pennsylvania. How many other people within the last, 2 to 3 years just moved to Texas? Look at there. Look at those hands going up. But those people moved here to Texas saying that, man, I want to be in a place where there's a good, strong, constitutional, conservative state. I want to be here in a place where my vote really counts. I want to be here in a place that stands up for something. I was just sharing with Kathleen. Kathleen said, I did not know that Texas had its own place of allegiance. The States of America that has its own Declaration of Independence. The only in the United States of America that has its own Independence Day. But I guarantee you on March the 2nd, there will be a lot of people here in Texas don't know what March the 2nd is. But the decisions that you make on March the 1st will impact what happens in the future, March the 2nd. But so many folks are moving here, and they're saying, man, this is a good, strong, constitutional, conservative state. But guess what? We are still physically and chemically castrating children in the state of Texas. Do you believe that? We're giving children in the state of Texas puberty blockers, hormonal therapies, and making them go through physical, surgeries to remove their healthy body parts. And in the last legislative session, the House and the Senate had legislation that said we want to end that. I was the chairman of the Republican Party of Texas. That was one of our legislative priorities. Republicans have control of the Texas State House 83 to 67, 18 to 13 in the Senate. We got the governor, we got the lieutenant governor, we got the Speaker of the House, and we still have physical and chemical castration of children in the state of Texas. You want to know why? Katy Christian Magazine just put out an article last week. The reason why is that $2.4 million were given to the governor, the lieutenant governor, and the Speaker of the House by gender modification clinics. The fastest growing medical clinic in the state of Texas last year, gender modification clinic, 16. School boards. NASB. Okay. They were the ones that went to Merrick Garland, the Department of Justice, and said, you know, all those folks, those parents showing up at school board meetings, can you please designate them as domestic terrorists? Do you know who is a member of the National Association of School Boards? The Texas Association of School Boards. And the Texas Association of School Boards is still a member of the NASB. And who funds the Texas Association of School Boards? Look at yourself in the mirror. It's a taxpayer-funded lobbying group. And yet, with the governor, lieutenant governor, Speaker of the House, control of the State House, control of the Senate, we couldn't get taxpayer-funded lobbying stocks. Educational freedom. Terry McAuliffe was in Virginia doing the debate, and he stood up there on the stage and said, parents do not have a right to decide what the children are being taught. Well, since it's Sunday, say bovine excellence. Bovine excellence. But guess what here in Texas? One of our legislative parties was educational freedom. Some people school choice. Didn't get it passed. What did I just tell you about Texas and our history? You know, this week coming up is a very important week in Texas history. Because on the 25th of February, 186 years ago, about 185 fellows showed up at a place down the road called the Alamo. And they stood there on those ramparts for 13 days. How many of you all have ever read William Barrett Travis's letter that he wrote on 24th February 1836? What did he talk about in that letter? He talked about there will be no surrender. There will be no retreat. He talked about dying, giving his life for his honor and the honor of his nation, and he signed off victory of death. Do you know how old William Barrett Travis was? 26 years of age. A 26-year-old commanded 183 against 3,000. And they all gave their lives. But you know something? We have no protection and martyrs because we couldn't even get that legislation passed in the last session. But yet we could put 15 Democrats in committee chairmanship positions in our Texas State House. The people that you worked so hard to make sure that they would not be in charge of the Texas State House, the Republicans put them in charge of committees. One of those committees is the House Committee on Education. And then you ask yourself, why did education freedom and school choice fail? Can't happen this way anymore. Do you think that the government has the right to be able to decide and tell you what gets injected into your body? As a matter of fact, you know, Susan, when I look at Article 1, Section 8 of the Constitution, those 18 things that it says the government has a duty, a role, and responsibility over, I don't see where it says protect your health. But I know that the Constitution says the federal government is supposed to protect your rights. And that's why we have an organization like this. But yet, we have a governor that has been asked to come up with a fourth special session so that we can get rid of vaccine mandates in the state of Texas. Nobody moving here from any other state would believe that the state of Texas has mandates on vaccination. Texas is losing jobs. because they don't want it. Our National Guard are being told that if you don't get a shot, Texas National Guard. Am I right? We want to defend the great state of Texas, and yet we're trying to tell them they don't have the ability to say no to something that is an immoral order, it's an unethical order, it's an unlawful order, it's an unconstitutional order. I served in the military for 22 years. I'm not going to have anybody telling our soldiers and our airmen in the Texas Air, the Texas National Guard, they got to do something jabbed to their arm. I look forward to the day when I can call up Lloyd Austin, the Secretary of Defense, with whom I served with in Fort Bragg, North Carolina, and I would say, hey, SecDef, General Austin, Foxtrot Austin. Who are okay? Maybe y'all know what I'm talking about, okay? Think about something else that's in the Constitution, something that we're trying to protect is our Constitution. Article 4, Section 4 of the Constitution is known as the Guarantee Clause, Terry. And the Guarantee Clause says that there are two things that the federal government is supposed to guarantee to every state in the Union. Number one, a Republican form of government. Not Republican Party, Republican form of government. Because America is a constitutional republic. And what is important in a Republican form of government? Individual. Your rights, your freedoms, your liberties, and the rule. $180,000, $200,000 every single month coming across the border into the state of Texas, being dispersed all across the United States of America. That's not an immigration policy issue, that's an invasion. And the fact that we have to stop it here in the state of Texas, the only state that has its Declaration of Independence, the only state that has its own Independence Day, is absolutely wrong. It's disgusting. It's despicable. The fact that we live in a state that is number one in the United States of America for human and sex trafficking. I live in Garland, Texas, not too far away from y'all, right outside Dallas. Houston and Dallas are the top two cities in the United States of America for sex trafficking. The number one killer of 18 to 45-year-olds in the United States of America. And last year, we had the highest amount of drug overdoses in the history of this country, over 100,000, one drug. Fentanyl. You know where it comes from? China. Fentanyl, the ingredient stuff from China, they ship it out to the cartels, they manufacture it, they refine it, and they bring it across the border and they disperse it throughout. And we have to shut it down. Article of delay. So why are we delaying? Ammunition. They're having to relieve themselves on the side of the road. They don't have enough porta potties. They're not getting paid on time. Some of them not getting paid at all. And then we tell them their rule of engagement, if the cartels are shooting across the Rio Grande River into Texas, they can't shoot back. You got to be a real freaking idiot to give somebody a rule of engagement like that. And see, that's why National Guard in the state of Texas, if you have no meeting, they're trying to unionize. Because of the deplorable conditions that they're in. Read the Army Times, read military.com. This is a national news story that the Texas National Guard wants to unionize because of the deplorable conditions that they're facing. They're not stopping anybody. All they're doing is collecting them up, turning them over to the Border Patrol, and the Border Patrol then gives them over to the non-governmental organizations, Catholic Charities, Lutheran Ministries primarily, who are giving people free cell phones, $1,300 or $1,400 of taxpayer money, and a bus ticket or a plane ticket, and they say bye-bye. Buses and planes are taking off out of Texas and showing up, Kathleen, over the holiday season, Christmas season, 6. landed in Wilkes-Barre, Stratton, Pennsylvania. Illegal immigrants were picked up out of Texas. Westchester County, New York. Jacksonville, Florida. Nashville, Tennessee. So Texas is aiding and abetting human trafficking, drug trafficking. That's not the Texas that we want. Now y'all said, okay, well, Colonel, what would you do? Number one, we're going to take over the border. We're going to have a border control zone. Because that's what you do in the military. You create an area of operations, you control it. Highway 90 to the north, you're familiar with Highway 90, Rio Grande River Valley, the river to the south, and you already got the designated sectors. El Paso sector, Big Bend sector, Del Rio sector, Laredo sector, Rio Grande Valley sector. You divide those sectors up, you put your troops in there, and you also go out to the Texas State Police. You also go out and find other civilians, like Doc Collins back there, and he'll show you a video. Well, they caught 35 coming across the border with their night vision. No border patrol, no National Guard, no. Just Texas. They had to wait 2 hours? 3 hours they had to wait for someone to show up for them to turn these 35 single military-age males, not family. Those are the people that don't want to get caught. That's what's happening every day, every night on our border. And when you create that border control zone, when you create these sectors, when you put people down with the right mission, the right task, the right purpose, the right equipment, the right rules of engagement, it will stop. You do not get to come into Texas, and if you do get across, we're going to have the ability to arrest, detain, and deport, and we're going to send you back. That's what has to happen in the state of Texas. The other thing we're going to do, we're not fighting against a business organization. The cartels are a terrorist organization. But to this point, no one has had the cojones to be able to say they are a terrorist organization. I will. Because when you designate them as a transnational, narco-criminal terrorist organization, you can go after their money. Cartels have money in Texas. They're cartel members that have houses, cars, all of these reasons in Texas. We're going to freeze their assets. And we're going to seize those assets. We'll sell it off. We're going to use it for our border security fund. They make $25 to $30 million a week just on human trafficking. Not even talking about the drug trafficking, not talking about the sex trafficking, just the human trafficking. I don't want that. Y'all want that, right? Yeah, we're going to square away for it. You know, we don't need to have a GoFundMe. Take their money, we can put a wall up down there, okay? That's what we're going to do. The other thing we're going to do, these fundamental organizations, like I said, Lutheran Ministry, Catholic Charities, they're 501c profit organizations can. Guess what they have to do? They have to apply for permission, the privilege to operate in the state of Texas. Real simple. You revoke their license to operate in the state of Texas. Okay? So there is nobody there for you to take 30 to 35 single military age males and turn them over to them and just disperse it there out. That's how you have to have a systemic approach. The other thing we want to do, no more taxpayer money for the people that are here illegally. That's just not right. It's your money. $1 a year Texas spends on people that are here illegally. I think y'all would like when you put that to work, paying that. That's what we ought to do. No, by the way, speaking about the property. Number one, we're going to find all the frauds, rates, abuse, and excessive spending that is going down in Austin. And we're going to capture that. We're going to push it back towards you. 19% increase in the Texas state budget in 2015. That's $48 billion. We're going to go back to 2015 spending level. So that's $48 million right there that we can use to pay that. We're going to go back and we're going to make sure that we get off what is called baseline budget system. You understand what a baseline budget system means? It means every single budget cycle starts with a baseline of the previous budget cycle. So when politicians tell you that they're cutting spending, they're lying. They cut the rate of the increase in spending off the previous year's baseline. So what we're going to do, no more baseline budget system in the state of Texas. We're going to go to a zero-based budget system. That's what businesses do. That's what you do in your home. You start from zero. You got to figure out, based upon the revenues coming in, what can I spend? And that should be how it is in the state of Texas. But concurrently to that, as we file all these things, we start paying it down, we're going to work toward getting us on 1917. See, 1917 was a very changed this constitutional amendment about how income tax. All in 1917. And the personal income tax was supposed to stay at 2%. It was supposed to be temporary. Joke's on us, ain't it? Prior to 1917, taxation in the United States of America was done based upon consumption. What you bought. You should never tax your income. You should never tax your property. If you know a little bit about natural rights theory, John Locke, Secretary of the Government, 1689, your original natural rights that come from the Creator are life, liberty, and property. Property. Jefferson changed it to pursuit of happiness. Okay, trivia question. You want to know why Jefferson changed it to pursuit of happiness and not property? Slavery. Because Benjamin Franklin said we cannot codify in the Declaration of Independence that we have a natural right given to us from God to own another person. Okay? That's why. It became pursuit of happiness. Still, your property should not be taxed. And so we're going to get that passed in the next legislative session, which will be going on a year from right now. We're going to get it passed in the House, we pass the Senate, I'll sign the law, and in November of 2023, it comes to you. For you to vote on that to be part of the Texas Constitution that will say that we are no longer going to have a property tax system in Texas. That's done. You can bring it back. And we're going to move toward a consumption-based tax system, and the only way those percentages can change, you've got to bring it back to the people for it to be voted on. And so by the 2025 legislation, you don't have a property tax system. You have. That's part of your individual economic. Your children. Let me close on this. Last night we saw a documentary, we streamed a documentary called Mind Pollution. I don't know if anybody has ever heard of this documentary. It's an incredible documentary. You all need to see it. We're losing our children. Mind pollution. If you understand the type of filth that's being taught to our kids in our public school system, with social, emotional learning and everything, we got to fix this. Texas is 46 or 47 out of 50 in education. 67% of fourth graders in Texas cannot read a grade level. That's where we are. And we got to fix that. No more indoctrinating of our children. We got to get back to educating our children. So I want to make sure that we do what's necessary to pass the law, the means by which parents and grandparents can educate the children. Because that's our future. Let me close by saying this. Then I'll turn it over for the questions. Remember on the 5th of March of 1836, and of course on Sunday the 6th of March, that was the morning when the Alamo fell. History tells us every single one of those Alamo defenders will they cross the line and join him, knowing that the end result was going to be their death. 182 came across. Jim Bowie was relegated to a bed. They tell us that they picked up his bed with him in it, brought him across that line. There's a line in the sand that's been drawn. The question is, which side of the line would you stand on? I'm on this side. I want you to join me. God bless you all. What are your questions? Carl.
I'm a little hard of hearing, so you may have covered this already. But
I can read them with you, Ken.
Anyway, we have a president that has had us locked down in fear over a flu bug. And now he's got us locked down in fear over a war that could start up over there we have no business in. Now, I'm a Vietnam veteran, and after that debacle and Afghanistan and all that, I've raised my sons with a motto. We ain't fighting any war we can't walk to. Now, we've got one going on a border down there, and I'd like to know how you're going to sort all this out regarding Washington, D.C., worried about the other side of the world and our own problems. I'd like to
able to defend ourselves against invasion.
I'm a disabled veteran because of all the sound. So if you've got a question to me about, you're asking me about. Okay.
I used to be artillery, so I know. Except my hearing problem is selective. First and foremost, okay, you have to establish border control. You have to deploy your troops down there to the border. You have to give them the right task purpose and the rules of engagement. You understand? The next thing is you got to designate cartels and terrorist groups. Okay, they're not business organizations. You go after their money, you go after their finances. They shoot wrong through the river, you shoot back. Okay? You got non-governmental organizations, advocacy groups, conventions. They're the ones that are picking up illegals and putting them on buses and planes. We revoke their licenses to operate here in the state. And the last thing is, you stop giving taxpayer money. We have to have power for resident banks and force. We bring in all of our assets, Texas National Guard, Air Guard, we bring in the Texas State Militia, and Bobby. They want to volunteer.
Deputize people like me. We have to.
Well, you can't hear nothing.
How do you deal with the resistance in legislator to your agenda?
Okay, this is the bottom line. Now, I have to have a supporting cast. If you like all the things that I've said, if you go to our website, you like the things that you see on our issue page, that's great. But if I don't have a supporting cast in the Texas State House, if I don't have a supporting cast in the Texas State Senate, I'm going to be a really healthy hamster. Because I'm just going to I'm not going to be going anywhere. So I think it's so important that you go back and look at who is running for state that represents you. What did they vote on? What did they not vote on in the last legislative session? All of this stuff is open source information. You just have to have the desire to go back and look at their voting record. You can even go and see who are the people contributing or what entities are contributing to politicians. You can go to the Texas Ethics Commission website and you can look at their names and you can figure it out. That's what the Katy Christian magazine did, because they said, why is child gender modification not ended in the state of Texas? Found out why. 30 pieces of silver equates to $2.4 million. That's what the governor, the lieutenant governor, and the speaker that combined to make sure that our children here in the state of Texas can still be chemically and physically castrated. So you can go and find this stuff out. Got to send a supporting cast of folks down. We cannot continue to have Democrats being put in charge of committees in a Republican-held Texas State House. And how many people have already voted? Okay. For the Republican Party for the 88th legislative session. And one of those ballot propositions was that agree that Democrats should be given committee chairmanship positions. Hopefully, you said no. But if you're not going out to vote, then we don't know. So that's what I need. I need the supporting cash to make sure that this happens. Now, the other thing that I can do, all of these agencies, they're appointed by the government. There are a lot of people going to get I call it a Papa Yankee Sierra letter. Pack your medical board, nursing board, pharmacy board, Texas Education Administration, and there's several others. Because we cannot have bureaucracies that are making rules and regulations that go against your freedom. The fact that here in the state of Texas, you could not decide what treatment protocol or therapy you wanted for your body, it's unconscionable. That if you wanted ivermectin, if you wanted hydroxychloroquine, if you wanted monoclonal antibody infusion therapy, if you wanted budesonide, somebody would say, well, you can't get it. Or if you're sitting in a hospital, like I was back in October, because I had traces of pneumonia in my lungs, and the doctor walks in and says, hey, Colonel West, how you doing? I feel kind of crappy, doctor. How are you? We're going to probably get you started on a protocol of remdesivir. Doc, I'm going to choke you out if you try. This is what I want. And I gave him that Colonel look. All right? And he said, I got it. In 48 hours, I was out of the hospital because I was on budesonide nebulizer treatment. So how do we get to the point that hospitals are telling along Texas? So we got to change that law. But we certainly will.
You are a supporter of Convention of States. Why did you accept donations from John Birch Society and Eagle Forum, who opposed COS while you were a U.S. congressman?
Well, I mean, I was a U.S. congressman 10 years ago, and I don't think COS came up and talked to me. But again, that packet that I gave you was from the John Birch Society. Yeah. And they're telling me to withdraw my support to you all. I've told them several times. No. Okay, so I've gone head to head with them. I'm giving you what they. Yeah, I'm giving you what they gave me because I'm transparent. Okay. So there you got it. All right.
What?
Did that answer that?
What is my question? What is your plan to abolish critical race theory in schools?
Very simple. You don't fund it. Let me tell you something else that's going on in the state of Texas. How many people have heard of the elementary and secondary school emergency relief fund? This is, every federal government always got a way. It's always got strings attached. Well, the federal government came with this thing to give money to the states to help them recover from COVID issues for, schooling, education, elementary and secondary school, basically your high school and what have you. But part of receiving that money, 20% of it has to go to social and emotional learning. And the state of Texas still took that money. And in doing so, $2.4 billion went to social and emotional learning, which is the means by which they're documenting and they're data mining our children. So it's very simple. I'm not going to take the funding from the federal government when it has strings attached like that. And first and foremost, the federal government does not have any jurisdiction in the realm of education whatsoever. That's not one of the things that's listed in Article 1, Section 8. You've got to have strong gubernatorial leadership that pushes back against the federal government and gets them back into the box of the Constitution, which is a restraining document on them. It's very simple. 18 things in Article 1, Section 8. That's it. 10th Amendment says all of the powers not delegated to the federal government are reserved to the states, to the people. So that's what I'm going to stand on. I'm going to stand on constitutional nullification to say that edicts, orders, mandates, and decrees, that's not law. We send members to the United States House of Representatives. We send people up there to be our representatives in the Senate. You don't get to sit back in the White House and just write something out on a piece of paper saying the state of Texas is going to do. Okay? Ain't happening no more. That's another one of those Foxtrot Oscar calls. Okay? But that's what has to happen. to include this cultural marshal. So your taxpayer dollars would not go to any independent school district that wants to teach critical race theory. Now, I'm going to ask you a tough question. Tough question. How many people here know about the Texas State Board of Education? Not a lot of hands.
Right here.
Okay, but still, not a lot of hands. The Texas State Board of Education is a 15-member board that decides most of the education policy for the state of Texas. And on top of that as well, is a 15-member board that whatever they decide as far as books and curriculum, the rest of the nation follows. There was an initiative that came before the Texas State Board of Education to teach comprehensive sex education all across the state of Texas. Basically, it was going to teach pornography to kids starting from K all the way up to 12. It did fail, but you know what the vote was? 9-6. 6 people on the State Board of Education wanted to basically teach pornography to children. You know this whole thing about finding these books, these obscene and pornographic materials in libraries? Guess what we have in the state of Texas? It's an obscenity exemption. And we got to get it, yes, an obscenity exemption for those school libraries. Now, if you were to take that exact same book and you were to put it in, I don't know, a gas station or whatever, somewhere where a minor can have access to it, they go to jail. So the library can have it, and they're exempt. And yet we have a state house and state senate that keep voting down obscenity exemption here in the state of Texas. So that's why we got to get you to understand these type of things. I want you to go home and find out whether or not your Texas State Board of Education members up for re-election. There are about 6 of them, I think, that are up for re-election. You need to know. And other things, run for school boards. The most important elected position in the United States of America is school board. The election that has the amount of voter participation in the United States of America is school board. And then you ask yourself, Tyler right now is one of the fastest growing cities, not just in the state of Texas, in the United States of America. So that means that the left has found Tyler, Texas. And when the left finds something, they run for 2 different positions. They run for city council and school board. So it ain't going to be long. You're going to ask yourself what in Sam Hill is happening in Tyler, Texas. And if it's happening in Tyler, Texas, slowly and surely it's going to be the Lindale, Texas. That's the Tyler Hill.
Do you support a right to life amendment to the Texas Constitution?
Absolutely. Ending the murder of womb. Absolutely. As a matter of fact, Brian Slayton, anybody here know Brian Slayton? Representative Brian Slayton has already developed legislation on that. He had it in the last session. They killed it. And I've already told him that I support it, and I want to get it to and I was out there with them last January at a March for Life, and I stood there with them when they had that ballot initiative in May, and they have already fought back Planned Parenthood's legal attack. So it can be done. You just have to have courage.
By getting rid of property-based taxes, what does that mean for the appraisal districts and their employees?
Well, this is the other thing you got to understand. I can only affect the property tax assessor from the state level. You got to make a difference at the county and the city level. So those property, those assessments that can still be there because you've got the county assessors, you got the municipal assessors. So if we can at the state level say that, look what we did. We went from this taxing of property to consumption-based tax system. Why can't y'all do it at the county level? Why can't you do it at the municipal level? And then there's no need for appraisal districts anymore because you have rendered them irrelevant. That's why Tip O'Neill was very right, even though he's a Democrat. He said all politics are local. But sadly, most times people don't pay attention to local politics.
During the election race, the candidates always tell us what we want to hear. Once in office, they tend to get soft on the issues they ran on. What will you do your first day in office to prove me wrong?
First day in office, I will sign an executive order that designates cartels as a transnational narco-criminal terrorist organization, and I will revoke the other thing is that I don't have legislative parties that I have are the ones that the Republican Party of Texas has. So that's how I will come out in the State of the State address in January 2023, and I will list my emergency parties, which will be the legislative parties of the Republican Party of Texas. Now, you say, okay, you're saying this now. Let me just give you my history. I served in the United States House of Representatives for one term a decade ago. Why did I only serve for one term? Because Republicans redistricted me out. And then I was the number one target for the Democrat Party in 2012. The second most expensive congressional race in U.S. history is my race. So why do Republicans and Democrats not want to have a kid that was born in the inner city of Atlanta, Georgia, who had never held political office before, retired colonel in the United States Army, not come back? Because I took an oath to the Constitution. My political party, also Dr. John Boehner, Eric Hampton, or Kevin McCarthy. My oath is to you all. And that will be the exact same thing. I take an oath in January 2020. Okay, medical marijuana, I agree with you. That's kind of oxymoron thing there. I support medical marijuana. And it really is a freedom and national security issue. Let me explain to you. Block 43X. No matter how many times I go out and purchase a weapon, I have to fill out a VA-TF form. 4473. How many people? On VATF form 4473, it asks you a very specific question. Are you under the influence, or have you ever taken any drugs, including marijuana, and blah, blah, blah. If you legalize marijuana in the state of Texas, you can't own a weapon. Oh, you can lie, but then you just committed a felony offense. So I am not going to do anything that undermines your ability to have your Second Amendment right. The other thing about legalizing marijuana, that young lady right there, when she sat down with the recruiter asked her, have you, or are you currently taking any illicit drugs? All right? If you legalize marijuana in the state of Texas, then nobody that is taking marijuana, using marijuana, can join the Texas National Guard. They cannot join the United States military. So is that what you want? You want to undermine the defense, our capability, capacity to protect ourselves along this border when the federal government said they're not going to do it? So no, I'm not for legalizing marijuana, but I do support medical marijuana because it has a lot of uses for our military veterans. There's some PTSD, traumatic brain injury, and things that are seizures and what have you. But it has to be a controlled substance because we don't want to go down the path of the opioid crisis where all of a sudden you have doctors who realize how to make money off of that and they become drug pushers. We don't want the same thing happening this time.
What? Excuse me. What is your opinion of a state income tax in Texas? Can you ban it forever?
It is banned forever. Okay, it's in the Texas State Constitution. We cannot have a state income tax. Okay, there you go.
How do you feel about constitutional carry, and will you defend it? What will you do about the immigration problems?
I think I just talked about it. I mean, we got to make a stand. And we have every constitutional right to do that. To include the Texas State Constitution. In Article 4, Section 7 of the Texas State Constitution, one of the preeminent duties and responsibilities of the governor of Texas as the commander of the Texas Military Department, 2 words, repel invasion. So Governor Abbott is in violation of the Texas state law.
I didn't hear what you said.
Repel invasion. Repel invasion. Article 4, Section 7, Texas state law.
What are your plans to institute for mental health addiction?
One of the things that we made a bad mistake during the administration is that we thought we could mainstream mental health issues, mental illness. You can't. So I think it's so important that we go back and we look at those institutions where we can provide the proper care to people. Treat them with dignity, treat them with respect. But right now, I will tell you, just putting people out on the streets in a homeless situation. Look at Austin, Texas. You know, it's looking like San Francisco. And that's not what we want. So we've got to go back and making sure that we have, those systems in place. And it's easy to do. We're putting up illegal immigrants in hotels and giving them taxpayer-funded money and rooms. Why can't we do something similar? Number one, we should not have homeless veterans. Number two, we should not have people with mental illness out there on the streets.
About those who are practicing Sharia law in the Metroplex.
There's only one law in the state of Texas, that's Texas Constitution. Well, I have. So we're not going to have parallel competing systems of law. Because one of the problems you see over in Europe is they have what's called no-go zones. They have allowed Islamic Sharia law to take over, and the police don't even go in there. So no. If you want to come in the United States of America, that's one of the big concerns about having these folks, refugees who's pouring in here, is that you got to abide by our rule of law. If you don't like our rule of law, you have to unask my state to go somewhere else. Okay? And I can say ask on Sunday because it's in the Bible.
Will you do what Abbott did not do about sanctuary cities in Texas?
Absolutely. We will find every single means that I can use the Constitution against any of these cities that are doing unconstitutional things. We're not going to allow people to have illegal immigrants out there. Think about what just happened down in Houston, Texas, where that constable was shot by the illegal immigrants. No more of this. And that's why it's so important that we allow our constables, our constitutional law, illegals. 71% decrease in deportations from ICE. Numbers skyrocketed as far as crossing, but the numbers dropped as far as deportations. So no. And that's why you cut off the benefits for the people that are here illegally. Okay? You're not going to be able to sit around and get free benefits, free, taxpayer money, and all this other stuff. Not happening.
What can armed citizens do when controlled by this invasion? When confronted by this invasion?
Well, that's one of the big questions. What can armed citizens do when confronted with this invasion? You've got to make sure that everyone understands the right and proper rules of engagement. However, if you're down there living in a border community and someone is on your land and they're there illegally, you got to make sure that they are empowered and they're protected under Texas state law. So what I want to do is make sure that everyone is protected when it comes to defending their life, their liberty, and their property, especially against people who come across the legal. When you got 30 to 30 military-age males traipsing across the ranch land, that ain't right. But we got to make sure we have the law in place to take an action because if we feel threatened. Because they're coming up, they're banging on people's doors, asking for their cell phones to be charged. Demanding water, demanding food. So you need to be able to protect yourself in those situations.
First wheels come across the river.
Well, that's what I'm saying. We're not going to turn them over to the Border Patrol. Because the Border Patrol is giving it to the NGO, and the NGO is dispersing it.
What's the plan to deal with attorney generals and DAs that won't do their job in prosecuting criminals?
Well, you guys got a great opportunity to select a new Texas Attorney General if you choose to do so. The things that we have to do, now judges, 155 Houstonians have lost their lives directly related to activist judges releasing violent felons and criminals back onto the streets. Article 50, Section 8 of the Texas State Constitution gives the governor the ability to start impeachment hearings on judges. Now, you people elect the DA, but we got problems with DAs in 4 major counties. Dallas County, Harris County, Merritt County, Travis County, all supported by George Soros. And there was a very interesting decision that came down from the Texas Criminal Courts of Appeal. Y'all see that decision 8-1, where they said that no longer can the Attorney General prosecute voter fraud cases in the state of Texas. It has to go to the county DA. Well, those guys sitting up there in Dallas County and those guys that, hey, you're pretty happy about that. There's not a whole lot that the governor can do against the DA, but I can do something against the district judges that oversee the DA. So that's what we'll look at. I want to make sure I'm doing everything that is right about the Constitution and not trying to make myself feel really dictator. Because guess what? We don't want to give them a precedent by which if they ever were in charge, they would turn around and do that. So we got to do everything by the rule of law.
When is eminent domain going to stop?
When you get the right person that is down there and says that you can't just continue to take people's property away. Now, if you want to sell your property, I mean, I can't stop you. But I'm not going to push policies to say that you have to give up your property. You know, there's this whole thing about a bullet train. They want to have one from Dallas down to Houston. You talk to the people along that route, they don't want it. And so I'm not going to support it. So that's what you have to have. Look, again, you look at the campaign donations for your representatives, and you can see exactly where the interests are. Last year, y'all remember what was happening like right now last year? Okay? On the 9th of February last year, Governor Abbott got a Wind Energy Champion Pact Award. On the 9th of February last year. 5 days later, they quit working. Texas looked like North Korea on the satellite imagery map at night. So, again, just go and do your due diligence. You know, maybe you should have a committee here that looks at legislative records. Maybe you should have a subcommittee that looks at campaign contributions and donations. So that when you come together as a big group like this, you can get a report. And someone can say, well, in this last legislative cycle, or in this is how our representatives vote, or this is how our county commission voted, or these are what we saw some very troubling things with campaign contributions coming to some of our elected officials. You got to study it. You got to do it. Because in politics, you follow money. That's just true.
We produce 18% of the nation's GDP. We are number 1. How can the government help small businesses and enable them to thrive in a country moving toward corporate fascism?
Well, one of the things I sat on the Small Business Committee when I was in Congress, 75 to 8% of our economy is small businesses. And yet, Governor Abbott thought that he had the enumerated power to decide who or what's essential, what business was stay, what business was closed. Show me where he has that power and authority. He doesn't. So 2.7 million Texans ended up losing their job. 10,000 small businesses gone, bankrupt, not coming back. We're number 1 small business bankruptcy in the nation. So I want to protect small business. I mean, it's a nice thing that you have these corporations and businesses that want to come here. But no more will we have the Texas Enterprise Fund, which is a taxpayers' flood fund that the government gives out to certain businesses to get them to come here to the state of Texas. I don't want to see the Silicon Valley picking up and leaving California, coming here, and the next thing you know, so we're going to support our small businesses. If you're a corporation or business that wants to come here, fine. But you're not going to come here and upset the the Texas way of life. And that's why it's so important. When we talk to these folks, we see that U-Haul van coming into the community, go up to them, engage with them, ask them where they come from, why they're here, tell them maybe you need to think about going back. Leader of the gun manufacturing industry. At the SHOT Show, how many people know about the SHOT Show? At the SHOT Show in Las Vegas, there were a lot of Republican governors that were there, advocating for gun manufacturing to come to their state. You know which state didn't have guns there? Texas. Georgia, South Dakota, that's where the gun manufacturing industry is going. I want to become there.
What about chips?
Microchips? Absolutely. I'd love to have microchips, semiconductors, and all that stuff here. I'd love to be able to go and fly over to Taiwan, have a nice talk with them about, bringing some of that manufacturing here and hiring Texas to do it. And that will really piss off the Chinese.
Was the Republican Party of Texas broke when you left the party chairmanship? If so, why? If not?
They weren't. The question was the Republican Party of Texas broke when I left the chairmanship, and it was not. As a matter of fact, in 1 year, for whatever reason, everyone kept wanting to audit me and the Republican Party of Texas. And I didn't get a salary. As a matter of fact, when I was down around and everything, I paid for myself. So again, you got the GOP establishment people that are out there. But the Republican Party of Texas is in great shape now.
Do you support giving our National Guard full magazines to patrol our border and allow them to use them?
Yeah. Let me tell you how bad it is for our National Guard down there when it talks about ammunition. When you deploy an individual into a hostile zone, which is what our border is, they're supposed to have a basic load of 210 rounds. That is 130 round magazine in a weapon, and at least 6 that they carry on them. Right now, they barely have 80. And many of them are exchanging that magazine, so they don't have enough. It is so bad that they're taking their own weapons down there to the border. We don't have weapons to give them. When you think about every place else where we're spending money, and that's why they're talking about unionizing. I've been on the receiving end of an AK-47 PKM and an RPG. I've been in 3 different combat zones. I've been down on that border in the middle of the night. We got to be better for our men and women. We got to make sure that when we deploy them down, we let them know that we trust you. To be able to defend us and protect us in the right way, that you can protect the sovereignty. Hey, look, let me close by saying this. A lot of people ask, why did you step down from being the chairman of the Republican Party to run for governor? Real simple. If you're the chairman of the Republican Party of Texas, all you can do is go down and ask. You go down there and beg. You knock on the door and you say, will you please, get these legislative parties passed for the people that work so hard to get you elected to be in this position. And I got pissed off. Not for me, but for you, when I see them shut the door in your face. To the point where now Texas is not the Texas that people believe it should be. About a month ago, there was an article in Newsweek magazine. And the title of the article in Newsweek magazine was Welcome to Florida, courtesy of Ron DeSantis, the new Texas. So naturally, people don't see Texas as that strong Constitution conservative state. So the only way you can change that is you run for that position. Because you can only be an advocate as a chairman. And I refuse to go out and work to get people elected if disrespect. So we're going to change it from the top. Lieutenant Colonel Alan West, the website is west4texas.com. Which side of the line are you going to stand? God bless you all.
At this point in time, I'd like to ask how many people are veterans. Would you raise your hands, please? I'd like to get this out here. I'm doing this because you did what you did for me. You didn't know me, you put your life on the line. I thank you. Now I'm trying to give back and do a bloodless way of taking back our country. And this is what Convention of States is all about. Then I wanted to tell you that on March the 5th in Pittsburgh, we're going to be hosting Alish Sudek. He's also a Convention of States person. He's from Berkshire, Texas, and he's going to be at the at the Amble Brewery, and it's going to be from noon till 2. He Slovakia. He has lived under communism. He has a great presentation. So, actually, Colonel West had till 2 o'clock, so we're going to let you visit with him for right now.
Can I make a motion?
Sure.
And then John Poro's going to speak.
And then John Poro's going to speak. He's running for congressional district.
Okay. My name's Dwayne Collins. I'm president of the Republican Club, Van Zandt County. I'm the man that Colonel was talking about that goes down the border. He mentioned the State Board of Education. In April, our meeting, we're having the chairman of the State Board of Education in Canton. If anybody wants to come listen to it. We've invited all our superintendents, all our school board members in Van Zandt County to be there. You don't have to go to Austin to see him or hear from him. Join us. We're the 4th month of April, whatever date that is, in Canton at 7 o'clock at the Farm Bureau. You're all invited. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, if you need help campaigning, you can call. Yeah, I'm excited. I've been here about 4 times. Traveling around everywhere, about 4 times. Oh, you got it? It's still
Hello, can you hear this one?
Oh, now we can hear.
We switched sound systems. Okay, at this time, hello, Chin Chun. Okay, we're gonna pull Mr. Porro up, John Porro. He is running for Congressional District 1. I know that it's a little bit early, but we're going to go ahead and do it, and maybe y'all can get home a little earlier than what you suspected. So we had 3 of his opponents last week, and this week we're hearing from him. And at this time, I'd like for y'all to welcome John Porro.
Hi all, my name is John Porro. I am running for U.S. Congress in the 1st Congressional District, and I really appreciate the opportunity to be able to speak with you today. You know, we need to start sending the right people to Congress, people who understand what the enemy actually is, and that enemy is socialism. In socialism, they remove God from his rightful place at the center of all decision-making, and they replace him with government and with people. This is a fundamentally evil and fallen way to run a society. Socialism demands obedience and equity for all, not equality. Equity means you all get the same outcome. It's predetermined. It doesn't matter what skill set you bring. It doesn't matter how much you sacrifice, how hard you work. You're supposed to get the same outcome. However, equality is what our founding fathers wanted, and it's what I want. And that means you have the same opportunity as everyone, and it's up to you to determine what you do with that opportunity, and that determines your outcome. Our founding fathers were smart. You know, they said in the Declaration of Independence that we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal. They didn't say equitable. Removing the incentive of betterment through hard work, sacrifice, deferred gratification, and perseverance. That destroys hope, and it prevents dreams. It nullifies the gifts that God gave you to share with the world. It's evil, and it's done to control you. Since government replaces God, government expects you to be obedient to it, like you're supposed to be obedient to God. Government is the solution to every problem. Government knows what's best for you. You need to listen to government. Well, no. We need to listen to God, and government needs to start listening to us. You know, all the issues that we see today are just different ways that socialism is trying to replace and make inroads into democracy. For socialism to take hold in America, it first has to destroy America. They have told us that they want to fundamentally change America. We need to believe them. America is about hope and opportunity. That's the anathema to socialism. They need to destroy our hope and opportunity in order for them to control us. Look at what they're doing. It's not unintended consequences of bad policy. It's actually intended consequences of extremely good policy. They're doing this intentionally. We need to send people to Congress who are not going to give one more inch to socialism. Let's take a look at just the 6 most important battles that we probably have ahead of us. This list could be 20, but you'll no longer hear me talk that long. So open borders. You know, Lieutenant West is absolutely right. We need to be able to control our borders. They believe that the people that are coming here will eventually be citizens. And they'll eventually, almost entirely, vote Democratic. So they're trying to change the electorate so that they have an easier time to be able to perpetually stay in power. They're already trying to do this by having illegals vote in New York City. This is just a trial balloon to see how things are going to work out nationally. You know, the people who come here illegally usually don't have a great amount of resources, so they're going to end up being on one of our social networks. So we're either going to have to expand those social systems or create new ones. I don't know about you, but I've never seen a social system get smaller and a telephone program get smaller after it got created. And I certainly haven't seen one go away. So we need to control our border. We need physical barriers, we need the appropriate policies, and we need to disincentivize people from coming here illegally. We need to finish the wall. We need to double or triple the amount of patrol agents and ICE agents that we have. We need to give them the proper tools to be able to effectively control our border. That means you need to give them seismographs. You need to give them infrared cameras. You need to give them regular cameras. You need to give them drones. You need to give them helicopters so they can get to areas that are not easy to get to by land. You know, we need to be able to have our National Guard at our border because this is a national border. It's horrible that Joe Biden has just abdicated his responsibility at this border. Get cleared faster. There's no reason for somebody wandering around our country. We need to withhold federal money from any state or city that acts as a sanctuary, not upholding our immigration law or working with ICE. We need to reinstate the Stay in Mexico policy. And we need to open up immigration law And say if you come into this country illegally, you are never allowed to be a citizen. Because is it a gift to be a citizen of the United States? And if you trampled on our rule of law coming in, you don't deserve that gift. The next main battle is going to be the First Amendment. Because if you have free speech in society, you can't have a socialist society. If you did, then you could disagree with government. And socialism doesn't allow you to disagree with government. We must push back hard and resecure our First freedoms. And this will be my first priority along with the border. It is our right to free speech that is under attack in our colleges, our corporations, Congress, and on social media. We need to open up the Communications Act of 1934, Section 230B, strip big tech of its protections. We need to declare them a public square and impose serious monetary fines for every violation of the freedom of speech. Americans, or you can continue censoring Americans, and we're going to find out of business. We need to once again make colleges a bastion of free speech. Every college takes federal money. We can easily prohibit colleges from taking federal loans if they are not upholding free speech on their campuses. They would not be able to function without federal loans. We have the stick. We need someone with the courage to pick it up. We also need to open up the 1964 Civil Rights Act and add political thought, political speech, and affiliation to the list of protected classes, because we need to have a legal recourse to be able to protect conservatives from being targeted and persecuted. We especially need this protection, unfortunately, against our government. Just look back at the Obama administration. You know, what Lois Lerner did with the IRS and Target Tea Party is unbelievable. And now if you look at the Biden administration and what the KGB, I'm sorry, I mean the DOJ, is threatening, they want to label parents who are speaking out against their students, their kids learning CRT or mandates as domestic terrorists. They want to monitor our bank accounts and erode our financial freedoms. Talk about chilling. You know, and our Second Amendment right. You know, the Second Amendment was not written so we can hunt deer. It wasn't written so we can target practice in our backyard. It wasn't even written so we can protect ourselves against burglars. It was written so we would have a citizenry that was capable of fighting back against the overreach of a tyrannical, centralized government. Haven't been COVID positive when for some reason, and they're knocking in the doors to make sure that they're still in quarantine. The only difference that isn't happening here is the Second Amendment and 200 million guns in the hands of free, law-abiding Americans. We can never give up our guns. We also have unprecedented debt and inflation, and that is intentional. They are trying to destroy us financially as a nation, so that as a people we cannot recover. Approximately 80% of the money that is in circulation today was printed in the last 2 years. Let me repeat that. 80% of the money in circulation was printed in the last 2 years. We went from $4 trillion in circulation to about $20 trillion in circulation. Let that sink in. You think inflation is going to be transitory? Most of it, unfortunately, was used for COVID relief because of shutdowns. Well, we've never isolated the healthy before. Don't know why we started doing it this time. And this unconstitutional policy has led directly to the worker shortages and to the inflation that we are seeing at our gas pumps and in our supermarkets. This policy has hurt Americans every day since it's been enacted. We need to stop funding our government by continuing resolutions. You don't just say, hey, I'm going to figure out what I'm going to budget for the next 30 days. We need to start making sure that we send an annual balanced budget every single year from Congress. We need to make sure that raising the debt ceiling is illegal, except for the amount of inflation. Because it's unethical for us to be saddling future generations with any more debt. This kind of debt is the ultimate form of the greatest generation didn't do. You know, they're trying to vilify and defund the police. Its purpose is to destabilize the fabric of society. I come from a family of firemen and police officers. I understand the quality of character of the people who pick up the shield. I will always give them the benefit of the doubt. We have so many district attorneys across the country not prosecuting crimes or selectively prosecuting conservatives and trying to release prisoners. You know, look at the history of socialist countries. They release prisoners and they stop prosecuting crimes. I'm always will be 100% back the blue. And then, of course, something I think you guys are all familiar with, election integrity resistance. Well, why wouldn't you want to ensure that the person who is voting is supposed to vote and is who they say they are, unless you plan on not cheating? Their arguments on the left are all disingenuous. We need to secure our elections. We need to have machines that are never, ever connected to the internet. We need to have a printed out paper ballot from these machines, and that is what should be hand counted. I would rather wait 3 days for the election results and know that they are secure than to live in this instant demand society and get something in 4 hours that we have to then question. So these are just some of the fights in front of us. I understand them. I will fight, and I will not give an inch on them. As I said earlier, we need to stop sending the wrong people to Congress. We need to stop sending lawyers and career politicians to Congress and expect different results. We have plenty of them there. I don't think any of us like how it's working out right now. You know, part of my job today is to show the contrast between myself and my opponents. Well, we have one candidate, Smith County Judge Nathaniel Moran, who was here recently. He's a career politician and a lawyer. Personally, I think that should disqualify him right there. He keeps calling himself the proven conservative. However, he is the only one of us running who has signed stay-at-home orders. Those orders close businesses, depending on your business, from either 6 weeks to 6 months. According to the Tyler newspaper, he cost in just 6 weeks alone, Tyler, $220 million in lost revenue. He followed Governor Abbott's legal orders pretty much verbatim. While churches were declared essential, I think, you know, the churches that I see around here, the bands are bigger than 10 people. He was well aware of this because he's quoted in the newspaper as saying, well, the churches will have to find a new way to gather. Let me describe to you what a conservative leader would have done. You tell people everything you know about the problem. You let them know how it spreads. You let them know the risks, the precautions you think they should take, and your recommendations. And then you let them decide what they want to do. If I decide that a haircut is very important to me and I feel safe to be out, then I'm going to find a barber who felt safe enough to open up his doors. And if that exists, then I'm going to have a haircut and he's going to have a customer. That's what freedom looks like. Unfortunately, like a parent, everyone thinks he knows what's best for you. Well, I've had one father on this planet. I have one father above. I don't need a third parent. What really disappoints me about this conservative is that if you can't stand up to a member of your own party like Greg Abbott and say, have a simple conversation, that you're losing your way in conservatism, or if you can't bring him back to conservatism, then say, no, I can't follow you with this, then how do we expect him to go to Washington and fight our real enemies like Chuck Schumer and AOC and Nancy Pelosi? I just don't think that that's a reasonable expectation. And if you look at his FEC filings, you'll see that 74% of his donations came from the Tyler Longview area with an average donation size of $1,760. I don't know about you, but I don't have that laying around on my couch to be able to hand out to a prospective congressional candidate. So what does that tell me? That paints the story that he's been bought and paid for by the elite. Exactly the same, because that's the kind of representation you deserve and you should demand. I'm not sure if you saw the video clip that Joe put together. By the way, that's Joe McKinney, who's also running for Congress. He put together an excellent video clip with Judge Moran and Louis Gohmert, who was here at your Senate 1 district meeting. Maybe some of you guys are in the room. But Judge Moran dismissed the concerns about election integrity as conspiracy theories. He repeatedly said that the voting machines were never connected to the internet. Well, Louis was following him, and Louis being Louis, he got up and stated that he saw enough evidence of voter fraud that he thought a subpoena could have been issued for the machines, for the flash drives, for the software, and there probably would have been enough evidence to convict. Well, couldn't a judge have gotten a subpoena? Congressman Gohmert then also stated that Texas voting machines were connected to the internet. To be dismissive of a concern that a ton of us share about election integrity just tells you what he thinks about our opinions. Instead of saying for the rest of Congressman Gohmert's speech, my opponent left. I guess he's going to leave us in D.C. when things get tough too. As far as I'm concerned, that's not a leader, that's not a fighter, and I believe he's declared himself to be the proven unconservative in this race. Now, there are 3 other people running. We've never held public office. I can tell you I know them now. They're all good men. They're all Christians. They're all conservatives. And they're all doing this for the right reason because they love their country and they want to see things to get better. So why are you going to vote for me as opposed to vote for one of them? It's going to come down to the skill set. If you think that the skill set of a roughneck and a Marine is what you want, you're probably going to vote for AD. If you're looking at the skill set of a long-term business owner, then you're going to vote for Joe. I'd like to tell you a little bit about my skill set, and hopefully that might get you to vote for me. I'm an Eagle Scout. I served as an assistant scoutmaster. I've been a Catholic high school teacher. I've been a first responder in my volunteer fire department. I'm a paramedic. I used to be a captain of my rescue company, and I did that at age 26, and I was responsible for ensuring ambulances 24/7 for 45,000 covered lives. I served at Ground Zero. I've now been a physician assistant for 22 years as a bedside provider. I'm the only person running who actually understands the science and data. I would never assign stay-at-home orders. I would never assign vaccine mandates. I would add my voice to Rand Paul's, who's been a very consistent voice throughout this entire pandemic, and ask for the firing of Dr. Fauci and refer him to prosecution. I've been on the board of directors for the Brooklyn Queens Archdiocese school system as the president of Most Holy Redeemer School. I have an MBA and a Master's of Healthcare Administration from the University of Texas, Dallas. For the past 9 years, I've been a healthcare executive as a director of advanced practice at Parkland, I answer to the CMO. I have 14 leaders across 11 service lines and approximately 300 employees reporting to me. I manage a taxpayer-funded budget of over $30 million annually. I am fiscally conservative, as evidenced by how hard I look to find new ways to improve our processes and give additional patient access without asking for more money, because it's your money. Now, I successfully navigate a bureaucracy every day. To be successful, I have to build coalitions, and not everyone in that coalition, someone necessarily agrees with me. But you have to overcome the resistance to change, because that's how we always do things. You have to do that while not compromising your principles. Now, I'm entrusted with the most vulnerable and poorest of our community, who don't have anywhere else to turn. And I work tirelessly to make sure that we get them taken care of, because if I fail, there is no way for them to be taken care of. I'm also on the board of directors of my state professional organization, TAPA, the Texas Association of Physician Assistants, as their treasurer. You know, TAPA had considered putting out a statement that COVID vaccine should be mandated. I disagree with that, and because of my leadership and courage to speak up, it encouraged other members of the board to also speak up. And I reminded them that we're here to advocate for patients' rights, not away. You know, we ended up removing any language in our statement about vaccine mandates, and we simply decided to encourage vaccination. So I hope you find that my skill set is deep and varied, that I have proven that I will protect my community, and that I will fight. I can't do it physically any longer, but I can still do it with my voice, with my thoughts, and with my pen. I am willing to take the slings and arrows of the left, the censorship of big tech, cancel culture, and the lies of the media, because I'm not afraid about what's going to happen to me. I'm afraid about what's going to happen to our country. My first day in Congress, I would knock on the Freedom Caucus's door and ask to join them. And then the first question I'd ask them is, when are we impeaching Joe Biden? He failed us in Afghanistan, and he's failed us at our border. So you've heard me speak for a while, and I think I probably should explain my accent. So I'm an East Texan who was accidentally born in New York. I just didn't know that I was East Texan until I got down here. But luckily I was adopted by two loving Christian parents, and they managed to keep me a Christian conservative, despite all the liberals around me in New York City. So, you know, unfortunately, no one did consult me prior to the event of birth where I was going to be born. Otherwise, I would have chosen East Texas. So I hope you can get past my accident of birth. However, having not grown up in a rural area has allowed me to be able to understand the specialness and the beauty of small towns and the rural area. And coming from an urban area, I know what I have to protect you all against. So the last thing I'd love to leave you with is, why am I doing this? Why me? Why should I get off my couch and give up my peaceful day? I ask you to imagine what this world would look like if our forefathers couldn't have been bothered to fight imperialism against the crown. I ask you to think about, what would our world look like if the greatest generation decided not to stand up against fascism? I'd like you to think about what the world would look like if my father didn't fight in North Korea against communism. What it would look like if my uncle didn't fight in Vietnam against communism. Unfortunately, socialism is now on our shores. It's in our classrooms, it's in our communities, and it's in our Congress. We must now fight it here. I'm not doing this because I think it's easy or something that I want to do. I actually really enjoy my career. But people have sacrificed way more than a career for this country. I'm doing this because I feel like I've been called to. We owe it to our forefathers to protect what they fought to give us, and that is a free America. Every generation before us, has handed the gift of a free America to the next generation. We cannot be the generation that fails. And we are very close to failing. It is the responsibility of all of us to be bothered and to get up and get active. So I would be honored to have your vote. I'd be honored to be allowed to represent you and help save this country. I'm a Christian conservative fighter. Send me to Congress, and I won't disappoint you with the results. Please look at my website, johnporro4tx.com, and that's my name, John, Porro, the number 4, tx.com. Follow me on Twitter and Facebook. And thank you very much for your attention today. God bless you all. God bless America, and God bless the great state of Texas.
So Louis would always read every single word of every single bill before he would vote on it. Would you be willing to do that?
Yes, and I think we should pass a regulation that you cannot make a 3. I think that's something that needs to be passed. Yes. Because you should know what you're voting for.
Yes. Will you communicate with us like Panic or Mac? She comes out of Congress, gets on a Facebook Live and tells us what just got done.
Absolutely. It's completely our responsibility to make sure that the people that we are representing understand what is happening, what I've just voted for, and really you should have that opportunity before I vote for it, so you have an opportunity to express your opinions to me. We need to have people who are actually going to be listening to the people who sent them there. I don't have to run for re-election if I do the right thing. If I do the things that I say I'm going to do, you should have every expectation you're going to vote for me again. And if I don't do the things that I say I'm going to do, I should have every expectation you're not going to vote for me. I assign the term limit